Hello, everyone, and welcome to Irishnftgal's YouTube channel, where we have the lovely JoeySuki, who I'm going to interview because usually Joey is the interviewer, but in this case we're going to turn heads. And we know Joey from the CryptoSkulls community, who I've spoken to before, and it's fantastic to get to know more of the community, the person behind that PFP. And you have a really cool CryptoSkull, so that definitely kind of alerted my attention. And the fact that your background is in music production, DJ, and Joey actually even headlined at a Tomorrowland Festival as well, which was like an amazing opportunity as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about your background, what got you into crypto/NFTs, and where you're at today, where your goals are. And so let's get started a little bit and let's get to know more about Joey. So I believe that you are a founder of Artist Coaching as well, which I'm really interested in because you actually interview other people. You're quite active on social media. So talk to us about that.
So as you've mentioned, I've been a DJ myself before as well. It kind of all started from 15 years old. So when I was still a kid, started playing at people's home parties, children parties, graduation parties. That's where the whole thing started, and eventually developed in a full-time career on an international level. And that happened in between like 10 years, so until my 25th years old. And in that time, I built my career and traveled the world, played a lot with other famous artists, remixed a lot of those artists, put out a lot of music as well, and eventually ended up in a burnout. So it's kind of the famous story that you see happening in the news a lot, like someone gets famous and they burn out in some kind of way. I got the same thing. And once I got in that burnout, I had to figure out like, why did this happen? And so I went to psychologists, I went to coaches to kind of dig deeper into myself, because that hasn't been something that I've been doing before. And during that process, I kind of found out that the whole career that I was building for myself for 10 years wasn't really fitting my personality at all. And that was kind of like an eye-opener to me, because I never really consciously thought about, is this actually something I want to do? It just was something I was good at, and people liked me because I was good at it, and they start booking me because I was good at it, and my songs got released because they were good enough, and I was kind of a victim of my own success, as you could say. So once that became clear to me, I really got that epiphany moment where I really realized, like, this is not a manageable thing for me. It's not a long-term plan. So I decided to switch my life and went into a different direction. I started to think about, could the thing that happened to me have been prevented, or could have been guided in a better way to maybe, live with this or something? To have like a coach that really understood me, because I've talked to a lot of people in the meantime, and a lot of people are smart, they're psychologists, they've been to a lot of schools, but they don't understand my surroundings. They don't understand the world that I'm living in, the music industry, and how it is to be on tour and to have fans and all those little tiny things that are part of your life, and are hard to imagine how it is to deal with those things. So I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have someone to talk to who is experienced, so who has been an artist him or herself, who has been on the ground himself, and at the same time knows what he's talking about from an industry perspective, but also from the theory perspective, so from the mental side, so the book smart things. And I started Googling about that, like maybe I've missed that person, but turns out there wasn't that type of person. So I was like, you know what, let's just start off by setting that up and let's see where it ends. And now we're 8, almost 9 years later, and we're still doing it. So turns out to be a good decision.
Definitely. And do you think like where that burnout originally came from is because of, you know, the pressure of having fans and being live and being like constantly, I suppose, producing, constantly creating new content? Like, where do you think the most pressure really came from? Because many creatives really do, like at some stage of their life, do get either a massive burnout or multiple, you know, several burnouts.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can definitely relate to you in that there's a lot of pressure, I think, just in general in younger generations, because we want to be an entrepreneur, we want to do well for ourselves, we want to maybe do better than like our parents have done. So where do you think that where do you think that the most pressure even came from?
Well, to be real honest, I never really experienced a big amount of pressure. As in, that's the first thing people go to when you talk about burnouts. It's like, okay, work pressure. You know, like it's been tough, a lot of workload. It's been too much for you. But to be honest, I've never really experienced that. Alongside from the traveling could be tough. You know, you're tired a lot of the times. But what has been the most challenging for me is the fact that you kind of developed a second personality. And I'll explain this a bit because it might sound a bit too vague for a lot of people. But once you start to become an artist, you literally make up a second person. You give that personality literally a name. So in my case, my original name is Joey, and my artist name, as you mentioned, is JoeySuki. And in the beginning, that's all fine and that's okay. And, you know, since you're just a small DJ or whatever, that doesn't matter. But the bigger you get, the more successful you get, the more people and the more, well, everything in your life starts to evolve around that personality, and not about Joey, but JoeySuki becomes more important than Joey. So the made up personality kind of, yeah, hostile takes over your life. And yeah, there's an identity conflict that's slowly happening, and it's not something it's not happening overnight. We're talking about like 10 years of process here, but it's a silent killer in my opinion. And I never really thought about it that way, but once I was at that coach and I had that epiphany moment, I started looking back in my career and I was like, oh, now I understand why this happened, or why this made me feel awkward, or why that made me feel weird, or, you know, a lot of things started to make sense. And that's because I always had to make a decision from the JoeySuki perspective, while me, like, I have to deal with myself the whole day, which is Joey. I have to deal with this body, with this set of brains, which is Joey. So I was living someone else's life. As weird as it may sound. Yeah.
No, I understand. So there's like conflict there between maybe competing with each other in a way, and trying to trying to understand that there's actually two people there in the one body.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that is a silent killer, and I couldn't imagine how difficult that must have been for your brain as well as trying to work, you know, full
Well,
time.
that's the tiring part, as in that's the reason why you burn out, because you ask so much energy from yourself, and you constantly have to overthink everything, and you literally lose the connection with yourself, and yeah, that just burns you out in a lot of ways, and I've been doing that for way too long. And that's the reason why eventually I just woke up and couldn't get out of bed, only started crying, was really emotional, like all the typical burnout things. But once that happened that morning, I just didn't understand why it happened, because I had the perfect life. You know, I was touring the world. I was this big DJ guy, yeah, making music and making money. So what's wrong with that? So yeah, that's the complicated part of it.
So do you think maybe out of the two like personas that you had, do you think one of the personas was really happy with where you're at, you know, believed that you're successful and, you know, you have the perfect life, whereas the actual you, you know, deep inside was unhappy. So you have literally two completely different characters there trying
Yeah,
to work together and probably clashing.
constantly fighting in your head. So everything that's happening throughout your day, the one moment you think like, oh, this is the best thing that could have happened to me, and the other moment you feel like, oh shit, but no, that doesn't make me feel good. Or like, for example, when I was on tour, the one moment I was like, wow, I'm having the best time of my life. And the other moment I was like, I want to be with my family and my friends and don't want to leave home ever again. So the extreme between those two thoughts constantly happened in my mind. And yeah, that just takes up a lot of your energy.
Wow. And would you, you know, when you were trying to kind of sort out the like the demons in your head, and when you went to the like psychologist, like would they have recommended you to take anything like to kind of counterbalance them too, or kind of just deal with it yourself?
Well, you have like in the Netherlands, you have like those what's the name, like those pills that makes you a bit more quiet, as in they kind of make you relax. But it's really soft, so it's not like Xanax or whatever. In the Netherlands, we're really strict with medication, so you don't get the hard stuff without a doctor approval or whatever. So no, you really have to deal with it yourself first until they kind of figure out that it's undoable for you, and then you might get some education. But in the first process of it, it's just you figuring it out yourself.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think it's definitely like that here where I am as well. But sometimes if you go to look for something, and then you could be quite disappointed if you don't
Yeah,
get what you're looking for, if that makes sense.
yeah,
But that is great to hear that you did get like the help that you needed at the time. I think there's many people out there that wouldn't even have the confidence to tell people or search for help. And I think you know, you're very wise for doing that. And like you're even now you can tell in yourself that you seem, you know, a lot happier in the fact that you're sharing those stories, you know. I think you wouldn't be able to share them stories if you weren't already like one step above that kind of experience.
yeah, yeah. It all has to do with self-confidence, I would say. And I think I'm lucky because I've built that artist career. And in order to be an artist, you kind of have to become self-confident, because you constantly have to deal with other people's opinions, and you really have to develop this shield around you where you know who you are and know what you stand for. And I think that really helped me to get through this, because I'm not ashamed of what happened to me, you know, like it just happened. And I'm happy that I now can say and have figured out why it happened, because it gives me so much calm in general, and peace in my life. And that helps me for the rest of my life, which is still the biggest part of my life, hopefully. So I'm still happy that I've gone through the whole process.
Exactly. And like I think it's mainly the stories that you can share as well that you're the better of at the
Yeah,
end of it, being able to share the experiences. And that's why I love getting into the nitty-gritty of like people's background, where they came from, before diving straight into like NFTs or diving
yeah.
straight into like what they're currently up to. So yeah, like tell us about yeah, where even did you first hear about like crypto? When did you start investing? And yeah, what do you like, what do you believe, you know, is the reason why that you got into crypto and NFTs?
Yeah. Well, I think just like me, I got into crypto first in 2017, when Bitcoin was kind of pumping for the first time and hit like national news stations for the first time, and everyone kind of jumped onto it. I was on that bandwagon as well. But at that time, I really didn't understand what it was about. You know, a friend came to me and said, "Hey, Bitcoin's pumping. You want to make some money? You should get into it." I was like, "Okay." And I tried to buy Bitcoin, which was a headache at that moment. Like it's super complicated. But that was the first thing. And then the market crashed and never looked back for like 2-3 years, I guess. And then I think it was around 2020 when I was on a holiday, and I was catching up with a lot of things, like COVID happened, and that really intrigued me because, yeah, something big happened in the world, and something that I've never experienced before. So I kind of started digging into what's actually happening here, and how is that impacting everything. And that led me to macroeconomics. And that's where Bitcoin came onto my path again, and where I really started to understand what Bitcoin was and why it was developed. And like, that was the start of it. And then a few months later, NFTs came on my path. And that's really where my brain clicked, because I was like, okay, I've always been an artist. I've been a creative. I've released music. I have, how do you say that? Like author rights. Like I have my own licenses, let's say.
Like copyright or
Yeah,
yeah.
like I have my copyrights on my music and stuff. And once I saw NFTs, and once I saw one of the first use cases of it, I was like, this is what the music industry needs. Because I've been active in the music industry for roughly 15 years now. And to be honest, a lot of things are broken, if you ask me. Like royalties, the balance between labels and artists, completely broken. The way how royalty payments are being done, completely broken and old-fashioned. Like all those things I saw, and I was like, okay, this is a big solution for that industry. So I started digging deeper into NFTs and into different projects, started diving into different projects and buying my first NFTs. And that's where kind of the little kid in me woke up, because I got that same feeling again, which I had when I bought my first pack of Pokemon cards when I was like, I don't know, 12 years old. Like the excitement and the, yeah, like just the excitement and the curiosity. I really felt that again with all these things, and that really piqued my interest and led me to dive deeper into this industry.
Wow, I love that comparison with the Pokemon cards. And the main reason why I love it, I used to collect them as well, believe it or not. I think I used to sell them when I was in school. But the reason why I love it so much is because the physical elements that you're comparing
Yeah,
that to NFTs. And NFTs, most people think digital art. They're usually the first like two things that will pop into people's head. Like it's only digital and it's only art, when there's so much more to that. And that's why I want to like educate the viewers as well, in terms of, if you've never heard of NFTs, if it's your first time, there's actually like a spectrum of things that is like growing with thanks to blockchain. And you're like a good example of that, because I think the music industry is really needed to get a revamp, especially in terms of royalties for any kind of artist, but in particular I do believe musicians, because like, even if you compare, like when you and I grew up, you'd buy CDs, or you might even buy like I would even buy tapes for the car.
yeah,
And they're things that you don't necessarily do anymore. CDs are already not so much popular. Tapes are gone, they're non-existent really,
yeah. It's making
unless
a
you have.
small comeback in the niche group, but yeah,
Yeah, well, like LPs are still going. I have LP.
yeah,
I
yeah.
have one of them at home. I love them. Like,
But
but
that's all
it's
vintage, you know. It brings back
vintage.
that vintage feeling. Yeah,
Yeah, and I like that because, again, the physical element, it looks nice, it's visually appealing. But yeah, I want to talk a little bit maybe about that comparison of the real world music life, what it's like to actually sell, maybe if you want to go there, compared to maybe NFTs. Have you had any luck with selling your own music, or maybe other artists that you work with through NFTs? And what do you find maybe easier to market yourself? What's the difference between the two?
yeah. Well, I haven't sold any of my own NFTs because I'm not making any music anymore. So yeah, I haven't been able to sell that because all my tracks are signed with labels, and all those rights are also given away through those labels. That's one of those things that in my mind don't make sense. As in, why should an artist or any creative person on earth give away the right of their own product to someone else? And for an artist, that could be 25 years. So how is that even possible? Like, I'm literally giving you, let's say, the patent of my product for free, let's say. So that's also why I think NFTs are big, because you can keep your own rights and it's all registered on the blockchain, and maybe you can license it towards other people so that they can use it for selling. But it's just a more healthy way, in my opinion. I have been selling NFTs from the sports side, as in I've done a small project with a friend of mine where we set up Momentable. And Momentable is a combination between moments and collectible. Momentable. We've created a few unique moments in sports, and we've immortalized those moments by having someone else create art of that moment, so make it visual, and then the original athlete sold the NFT. So to give you an example, do you know Eliud Kipchoge?
Yeah, I think I've heard.
He has the world record of marathon running. So maybe the quickest guy on earth, the fastest guy on earth. He's been, I think he's the only one who has been able to run a marathon under 2 hours, which seems to be humanly impossible. And he did it twice now because he broke his own record last year. But we sold the first record, so that the first time he crossed the finish, we immortalized that image. So by having an art piece of that image, him crossing the finish line, and Eliud sold that NFT towards his community, his fan base, someone who wanted to collect it. And we did that with a soccer club here in the Netherlands, and we did that with a bike team in the Netherlands. And that was kind of this tryout where we had like, okay, let's see if this works. And we did that in like 6 months, 5 months. And that went really well. The NFTs sold really well. So we were like, wow, this is actually happening and people are interested in this, as in they're eager to collect these kind of things. Somehow people think this is valuable, just like we thought they would. So that really triggered me into, okay, now we need to do something more. And in regards to music, what I'm doing now is consulting artists into how to use all these things and bring them into your brand at this moment.
So you're basically, helping to onboard people, making that process a little bit easier, educate them and make them more comfortable with this technology. What's maybe the majority of people of artists that you consult, what's their feedback maybe at first? This is too, like what they say, this is too complicated, or can you just do this for me? Because I've done a few like sessions like similar to this as well, and it's quite funny sometimes if it's their first response, their first like actual idea of hearing about an NFT, they might feel a bit at first most people are uncomfortable about the idea, but have you had any kind of funny responses to it?
I think it's the same for everyone, you know, like most of them don't maybe trust them. They feel like, especially when you mention the term NFT, they're like, oh no, thanks. It's those bullshit apes that go for too much money. That's the first thing they say. But luckily, especially in the music producer side of things, so the DJ, the more, let's say, technical side of the artists, they always have been in front of the innovations. So they're pretty tech savvy. They understand computers. Most of them maybe even know coding. So once you start explaining it to them and why it's valuable or why it's interesting, it makes sense really quick to them, because they kind of connect the dots between creativity and technology. And to them, it's like, it's instantly there. I think DJs were also one of the first artists that jumped into social media and really started to utilize content for promotion. And after that came bands and singers and songwriters, but DJs are mostly the first ones to adopt innovation technology.
Okay, and like social media must be so important to you in what you're doing right now. What are the key, I suppose, even marketplaces? What are the key marketplaces that you would recommend maybe to a new artist, any type of an artist? Yeah, what type of marketplaces would you recommend? And then what type of social media channels would you recommend for them to get started?
And marketplaces, you mean NFT marketplaces?
Yeah.
I think right now I would still use OpenSea because I think it's still the biggest ones. Blur is coming up right now, but yeah, that fight still needs to be fought. So we need to see how that happens. But OpenSea, in my opinion, is still the biggest one and the most well-known one for most people. So that's the one I would recommend. And regarding marketing, yeah, you need channels where you can bring people towards OpenSea. So you need to utilize all the other platforms like Instagram, like TikTok, like YouTube to gather an audience, to build that audience and to, bring them into OpenSea to eventually buy your NFT. So the marketing and the promotion still happens on the famous platforms. For artists at this moment, it's TikTok, obviously, because of the music algorithms. Still a bit of Instagram and maybe YouTube, depending on if you like to make video content, yes or no. But that's about it. Twitter is not really a thing for artists at this moment.
Yeah, I agree. And when I say to people Twitter is like my number one, they're like, what? People use that?
Yeah.
Like, is that
Yeah,
not
exactly.
like corporate, like LinkedIn vibes, you know, isn't that kind of the same? And I'm like, no, it's totally different. I hate LinkedIn. They're like, whoa, really?
Yeah,
And so you're
exactly.
on TikTok. Would you use TikTok? Yeah.
I'm there, but the only thing I do is like I have this social media planner scheduler, and it's connected to my TikTok, so it literally just posts there. And sometimes I open it and maybe reply in some comments, but I'm never active on there because I'm just scared of how addicting that app is.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be a part of that.
And you use scheduling tools, do you? What ones do you use, or like what kind of organizers do you recommend?
I'm using one, and I lately switched actually. I've been using Later for a long time, later.com, which has been nice, but I kind of missed some features there. And now I'm using Metricool. And I think I got it from you. Or did I get it from someone else? Metricool. Oh, it has been someone else.
Probably
And
someone
someone
else.
else tipped me. Yeah, someone else tipped me about Metricool. And I was like, oh, I've never heard about it. So I started looking into it. And they seem to offer all the features that I needed. So I was like, let's give this a try. And it really worked great. So I've been using it for a couple of months now.
Yeah, I think it's really important to save time as well by using like to our advantage. Do you think like will you adopt to maybe artificial intelligence tools? Have you experimented with any AI tools, and do you think that could be useful for artists?
Yeah, definitely, because artists are not the best writers. So ChatGPT is a help. For example, most of the text that you see on my website has been written by ChatGPT. Most of the blogs that you see from my end, the basis came from ChatGPT, and I kind of edited around it. So I've been experimenting with it a lot and trying to see how it can enrich my life, like getting ingredients from it, for example. Or recipes, I mean. But
I
for
need to
artists,
try that for recipes. I need to
yeah, it's
try that
great.
because I'm an awful cook. I burn toast.
It's great if you just say like I want to eat healthy tonight, including fish and cucumber or whatever, you'll get up with something.
Wow.
And another one I've been experimenting with is Iva, which is a music generation AI tool. So he'll
Wow.
just compose like a full piece of music, and you can download all the independent files from it and start editing yourself.
And you mentioned earlier in the call about rights to your music. Do you think that might have a conflict with AI. That's what I am kind of aware of at the moment as well. There's a lot of artists that are against, you know, there's kind of like an ongoing battle to do with digital rights, or not digital rights, but like copyright, in that if you use let's say any AI tool, basically they have permission then for anything that you're using, the AI is learning from. So you are giving it permission by using it for your own sources, even though you didn't tick a box, you didn't say I accept. Just by using it, you're already giving it permission. So I think a lot of people don't have the right to kind of, you know, battle against it. I believe ChatGPT is owned now by Microsoft, which is obviously one of the biggest, you know, corporations in the world. You wouldn't have a fight against them, basically. But yeah, do you think there might be issues if, let's say, one of your old works was very similar to, say, you were experimenting with this AI tool, the music tool that you mentioned, and it was very similar to one of your own? You know, what would be, you know, what would be your own judgment, and what could you do as well when it's a new tool? So yeah, what do you think about that?
I think we're in the middle of the time where we need to figure that out with all of the humans on this planet, because I'm not sure if it's piracy or theft or whatever, but someone else stealing your music has always been a problem in the music industry. Obviously, there's been a lot of lawsuits against people who stole certain parts of music or whatever. So that's not something new. But what happens if an AI tool does it? Because who's the owner? And who's the creator? And that becomes a difficult question in court, because who is the owner? You know, is that Microsoft? Is that the one who typed in the prompt? I don't know. That's something we need to figure out altogether at this point. And I think the first lawsuit has already been filed but that has to do with like the images. Kind of blanked on the name of the AI tool, the image one.
Was it Midjourney?
Yeah, I think it's Midjourney.
Yeah.
And I think it was Giphy or something, like one of those big websites, like royalty-free image websites. They already filed lawsuit to one of those AI tools because they say most of the stuff you come up with has some of our content in it. So yeah, how do you deal with that? I don't know. And I think we need to figure that out all together. I think in the fundamental thing of this all, it's not okay to steal stuff from other people. So we need to figure out a way of how we can create AI tools without stealing stuff from other people. But stealing, especially with creativity, is a really thin line, because music, I once wrote a quote, read a quote, which was really true to me, which was, everything's a remix. You know, everything's already been done, everything's already made. You're just compiling things in your mind that you might have heard 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 2 minutes ago. And your mind brings all of those things together, which is creativity, and makes a new song. But yeah, if you really go to the core of it, is that original? Because there's probably something in there that's already been done by someone else. So it's
true. And the likelihood of it becoming very similar to something else is very high, that you could have honestly never knew, or psychologically you could have known, but in your head, like, you didn't actually do it deliberately. Exactly.
And that's the thing. Like, if I go back to my career, I've sued someone once. One time I heard a song and I immediately said complete ripoff. So in my belief, if that happens, if anyone can hear this is the same, then you could say, okay, this is a ripoff, you should take it down or whatever. But if it's inspired to, or like the thin line, it's really hard to figure out if it's theft, yes or no. Yeah, it's actually a made up name. But once I was an artist, people started to tell me that it has different meanings all over the world. I believe in Polish it means bitch. Yeah, I had to find that out too late.
Love that.
So it really, to me, it
I've
doesn't
heard
matter.
it before. I've heard it before. Maybe from that. I had a lot of Polish friends in school. Maybe that's it.
Could be, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I'll try and forget you said that.
Yeah. Hopefully, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I want to talk about the future of NFTs, where you
Hmm.
see the music industry going, and what do you think is maybe the NFT industry lacking right now? Is there anything that you see that could be, we could be building right now? Everyone talks about like the bear market is for builders, but do you see any opportunities there for artists and even
Hmm.
music artists in particular?
Okay. And so first, if I look into the future, and I'm not sure how long, but I would say somewhere in between 5 to maybe 10 years. So that's pretty quick, if you ask me. I would see a music platform. So let's say Spotify or Tidal or Apple Music, um, which will start to pay out royalties directly to the artist per second, for example. So now, not most people don't know this, but an artist gets paid every 6 months, every 12 months. So the money I make on my music is slow money. If I release a song today, I will receive my money 6 to maybe 12 months from now, which is old school, in my opinion. Like we have the technology that can fix that, so why don't we? And while we do it, why not cut out the middleman, as in labels and stuff? So I would love to see a big streaming platform who incorporates Web3, where I can connect my wallet, show that I'm the original owner of the music, and they can just dump the royalties in my wallet real time, or maybe per 10 seconds of streaming, or whatever you want to do, but it's a direct connection. So that's something I've been thinking about, which would be a great solution, and I think is inevitable, in my opinion. Another thing that will definitely happen, and maybe already is happening, is the community part of things, because artists have fans and fans are communities. So you can start tokenizing those communities and give them power as well. So until now, most of the communication between artists and fans has been a one-way street, and we're going to make them a two-way street, and make sure that you give value back to your audience as well. And that's already happening. You already see the first artist making that decision. That's also the thing that most artists come to me for, that they say like, hey, how can I implement Web3 stuff like NFTs in my career right now, which could make sense. That's the first thing I kind of go to. And that's because releasing music as an NFT is still, it's doable. You can definitely do it, but rights, when it comes down to the rights of things, it's still a bit hard. So that's why I'm a bit skeptical on that for now, but not for the future. The second question was, where do you see improvements, right? What needs to be built?
Yeah, do you see anything missing right now
Yeah.
in the industry that maybe we have in the real world that's not implemented right now? Do you think that there's anything there do you think anything that there's lacking really in the digital world, in the digital space for artists?
Well, I think, but that has to do with all of the NFTs and the Web3 technology. It's the like the is it the UX? UI,
Yeah.
yeah, the user interfaces and the UX as well. Like, we need to find a way to make it easier for people to onboard. And I think Instagram might have a big role in that, because once that's already possible, by the way, you can, as an artist, I've done it as well, just to check it out. I've connected my Instagram profile to my MetaMask wallet. So I could start selling NFTs through my Instagram profile at this point. Instagram is a place where most people live, you could say, which feels native to them, which feels trusted to them. So that could be one of those things that help to onboard people into this space. And as a creator of the apps or whatever, or as an artist selling those tokens, try to diverge away from all those terms. So NFTs, tokens, whatever you want to call them, try not to name them like that, because that's what scares people. Try to mention it like a full access ticket to your community, or what else? Like, try to give it a normal name, and maybe just put the word digital in front of it or something, just to make clear to people, like, this is something digital. You'll get an access ticket to my community, and you can buy it on my Instagram. People don't need to know that it's all happening on blockchain. Just as I honestly don't know how the internet works, like how does a web page pop up if I click it? I don't care. I want to use the web page. And that's how most people think about buying NFTs as well in the future. They don't care about how it's working. They just want to buy that token, or want to have that access to that community, or want to have the access to that festival or whatever. So don't bore them too much with all the technical aspects of things.
Definitely agree. I have a background in UX design, and it's definitely lacking that. So I'm glad you brought up UI, UX. And then you mentioned like rewarding the community. I think that's definitely something that NFTs can do better than the real world. Like, we're seeing the likes of POAPs, we're seeing the likes of royalties, that the artists are getting more royalties with thanks to NFTs. We've seen very large music artists like Rihanna that are currently giving her holders payment because they own a portion of the copyright of the music. So this is something new that I think all artists should take advantage of. And you mentioned earlier about OpenSea. It is definitely the #1 platform for artists right now. But there's a lot of controversy last week with the whole royalties. They want to get rid of it. They're testing out already a 0% transaction fee, and the entire Web3 community has just erupted because they're in competition with Blur competition. But I don't think they should be in competition. I think there needs to actually be more marketplaces, and I think there definitely is the area for improvement. We need new marketplaces. We want to support artists, and I think right now there's actually no marketplaces that really support artists, and artists only, like that artists are the first. So I would love to see definitely a new marketplace being built that's easier to onboard. Maybe it could be a marketplace that has the likes of you that will help to onboard and consult, and you're a music artist, perfect, I can help you because I'm specialized in this, and so on. If you're a visual artist, there's another person, or I would love to see a marketplace like that being built, and I'm sure the next time I talk to you it will be built, because someone will have listened and stole my idea.
But it makes much more sense. It's not it doesn't make sense to me to say, okay, there will be one marketplace for all. Just as you have Amazon right now, like one-stop shop for all the products you need. The chances of that company being built right now is pretty small, because there's so much things that we need to find out yet. So it would make much more sense to me if we would have a music marketplace. Do you know Beatport, for example?
No.
Yeah, that's kind of the marketplace where DJs shop their house tracks and stuff. So let's say Beatport would create a house music NFT thing. You already have LimeWire and Napster. Do you still remember those names?
Oh, I do. I think I broke a few laptops from LimeWire.
Exactly. Like exactly. Those companies, like, they're also really diving into the music NFT thing, and also like focused on bringing the power back to the artist, which is a great move. And those are already like known names, so I would give them a big chance of succeeding. But what if, let's say, wasn't it Sotheby's who also opened up their own art NFT platform?
Yeah.
So I think that's something that we will see happening over the course of the years as well, like more niche kind of marketplaces instead of one marketplace for all.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's room there for everyone, and we're so niche, so new right now that literally we haven't even fully thought of the capabilities that can be there. So that's why I think it deserves to have, yeah, certain artists for certain marketplaces. I totally agree. Well, I want to thank you so much, Joey, for your time. And like, thank you so much for your patience. You've been so nice. It's been an absolute pleasure to interview. And yeah, best of luck with your consultancy, your artist coaching and everything else. Yeah, and I hope to see you very soon. And thank you so much to be for being a CryptoSkulls community member as well. It's been lovely to get to know more about you, your background, and everything that you're up to right now and your insights. So thank you so much, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you for the kind words.